All right, it looks like we are live. And hello, everybody. It's Antonio with New Grad Optometry. Welcome to all of you who are watching us live. And for those of you who couldn't make it, I know a bunch of you guys had emailed me ahead of time and told me you might not be able to make the live event, or maybe you can't stay for the whole event. Don't worry. The video will be available on our YouTube channel and on newgradoptometry.com after the event is over. So I am really excited to be here with Pete Hanlin. Pete is a master optician who has been in the ophthalmic industry since 1989. So a good bit of experience. He spent over a decade managing various optometric practices and laboratory operations before joining Essilor in 2002, where he currently serves as Senior Director of Professional Solutions. I'm sure many of you have heard of Pete's name here or there, as he is a frequent CE speaker and has even served as an industry representative in the ANSI Z80 committee. So those ANSI standards that we all learn about. So we've done some filming with Pete before, and I promise you, you won't find many more knowledgeable guys when it comes to the ophthalmic industry than Pete. So welcome, Pete. Good to have you with us.
Good to be here.
And today we are going to be talking about blue light. So we'll be talking facts, fiction, and why there has been a lot of effort and research into blue light. Because it's not necessarily a new topic. We are hearing a lot more about it, finally, and so are many of our patients. There's no doubt that blue light is a hot topic in our industry, and but I think the first thing we should do is define what we really mean when we say blue light, because not all blue light is bad. And when we hear about blue blocking lenses or blue filters, so on and so forth, what we're really talking about is harmful blue light. So Pete, why don't you tell us exactly what is harmful blue light and what is good blue light?
Okay, so to your point, not all blue light's bad, and there's a lot of different blue light. Blue light's going to go from 380, right? It butts up right against UV, and it's going to go the whole way up to 500, where it starts to turn into a yellowish green color. The spectrum that we're worried about is going to be that 415 to 455. That's what's called harmful blue light. It's blue violet. And the question I get a lot is, well, why is that particular color of light bad? And the reason has to do with the fact that it causes oxidation in the retina. The simple way to talk about it. The issue that we have, though, is that, as you mentioned, there's what's called beneficial blue light. And in most of the time when you hear today, or when a consumer hears that blue light is bad for them, what we call beneficial blue light is actually what they're hearing is bad for them. The reason for that is around 480 nanometers, which is the color of the sky, blue turquoise. That color of light, you have to be able to see it in the daytime, but you don't want to see it at night. If you see it at night, you're not going to sleep very well. Your circadian rhythm gets screwed up. You lose sleep, you gain weight, and you blame your electronic device for it.
So we don't want that. We don't want that. Losing sleep, gaining weight, yeah, that's a bad combination.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of answered some of this already, but another common question that surfaces a lot is, other than some of these potential some of the potential damage blue light can cause to our eyes, what are some other dangers of overexposure to blue light that we might not even think about?
Yeah, the big one is, again, the beneficial blue light is the thing you don't want overexposure to during especially nighttime. There was a recent study, I think it showed that incidence of cancer actually went up in areas of the world where people were exposed to a lot of blue light at night. But that blue light's 480. The other thing that blue light causes that most people don't realize is your pupil response actually is geared right around 480 nanometers. So that's one of the reasons you don't want to just wear a yellow lens. And if you've ever worn like a yellow shooting lens, you notice that things seem brighter. Part of the reason, of course, is contrast, but the other reason is because the yellow filter actually keeps your pupil from getting as small as it naturally would. And then finally, out there on the fringes, The other thing that blue light seems to be linked to that's becoming a big topic is myopia progression. So there's actually been a conclusive study done that the more blue light children get exposed to, blue turquoise specifically, the less that their myopia tends to progress. So you need blue light, and at the same time, it can be bad for you. It's kind of a...
Yeah, that's really interesting. Especially, you know, with myopia. I mean, myopia control, myopia progression, that's a really hot topic as well right now. A lot of stuff coming out on that. So, you know, you referenced several studies just now, and, you know, sometimes you hear it from some colleagues in the industry, mostly in the past, that there just isn't much out there yet on harmful blue light. I mean, is that true? And if so, where can you really go to find resources, especially more current literature?
So I usually don't like to use the Paris Vision Institute studies that Essilor actually worked with them on, because we're somewhat involved. So let's step away from what Essilor's done on the topic of blue light. My absolute favorite paper, if someone wants to read and they are on the fence about blue light, there's a paper, and I'm going to give the part of the title here: Prevention of Increased Abnormal Fundus Autofluorescence. If you just put that into Google and you do the main researcher whose last name was Nagai, this is an interesting study, and one that really concerns me, because what they did was they had 128 eyes that were about to get cataract surgery. It's the most common procedure in the United States, is cataract surgery. And what they did was they looked at their retinas, and they said, what do they look like? And they were all nice, normal, healthy looking retinas. They let the people go get their cataract surgery, and about half of them got a blue filtering IOL, while the rest of them got a clear one. Now, what I find a lot of optometrists don't realize is that in the United States, of the 3.2 million cataract surgeries that will happen this year, half of them receive a clear IOL that does not filter blue light, and the other half do. So 2 years later, they went back and looked at all of these retinas, and in the ones that got the blue filtering IOL, they all looked exactly the way they did 2 years ago. But 15% of the eyes that had gotten the clear IOL that had increased exposure to blue light, 15% of them had the beginnings of macular degeneration. So I think that kind of says something. 3.2 million eyes per year in the United States is a fairly sizable population. And for half of those patients, they're getting dosed with a lot more blue light that an aging retina just isn't designed to handle. So,
Yeah, that's a really interesting point there, Pete. And I think it's something that, you know, as an optometrist, I mean, even when I'm in the clinic, I don't even think about when I refer a patient for cataract surgery, I don't even think about that. That's something that's not even on my mind. And when it comes to blue light, I think that a lot of us think about digital devices, our programmers, people spending hours a day on the computer. But you know, it's more than just that, I suppose. What is the number one source of blue light?
so the sun. And that's the scary thing, is when we do market research and we ask consumers, hey, how many of you know that blue light's probably not good for your eyes? The neat thing is about a third, 35% of consumers say, you know what, I have heard that blue light is not good for my eyes. The sad part is when we say, so what are the sources of blue light? Less than 1 out of 5 consumers identifies the sun as a major source of blue light, when in fact it is the major source. The sun puts out 500 times more blue light, harmful blue light, than your iPad does. Your iPad's measured in milliwatts of exposure. The sun is several watts. And so the sun is the real culprit when it comes to blue light.
So that's another interesting point, and we'll talk a little bit more about different products, different solutions to protecting the eyes from harmful blue light a little bit later. But you kind of mentioned this already, and I've seen it myself, that a lot of consumers, patients, are actually talking more about blue light and protecting their eyes. There's even Google search trends that have shown that more and more consumers are researching blue light and looking for solutions. I mean, why do you think that is? Is it because we're talking about it more in the exam room, or is it because there's just more research being done, or is it just a combination?
Well, I would love to say that optometry and ophthalmology has so much influence on American culture that that's the reason people are talking about it. I suspect it has more to do with the short-term implications of blue light, and that is the losing sleep. I think especially millennials, like my own kids, have noticed that, hey, I can't sleep at night. It probably has something to do with what we call beneficial blue light, and it's probably coming from their devices. It might also have something to do with the 3 or 4 Monster drinks that they drink each day. But when your eye, because you have what's called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, and they just spend all day looking for that blue turquoise color. Yeah, I'm not going to use the abbreviation because it took me like a week to memorize the name of that stupid cell. So anyway, it spends all day looking for blue turquoise light. And when it sees it, it goes, okay, blood pressure go up, melatonin, don't produce it, pineal gland, it's daytime. At night, when the sun goes down, that receptor is supposed to get turned off. But when you open your iPad or you have an LED light right overhead, that sensor is still saying it's daylight. And so at midnight, when you finally close your Kindle, according to your body, the sun just went down. And so I think consumers are noticing that, hey, what can I do to sleep better at night? What I think we need to educate them on is not only that, but then also say, hey, there's another type of blue light that could damage your eyes over time. Of course, people tend to be more worried about sleeping tonight than having AMD 20 years from now. But, I think as professionals, it's our job to kind of let them know. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a good question that just came in, and so we'll pause it here for a second. But so you had mentioned that the sun is the #1 source of blue light. So the question is if the sun emits blue light, does that mean sunglasses can block blue light as well? Or is blue light too different than UV rays? So I know, there's the spectrum there, but.
So the answer to that is sunglasses absolutely positively block blue light. And really the best way, as much noise as we've given to clear blue light filters and everything else, really the best way to protect people against harmful blue light is to say, hey, you need to wear sunglasses anytime you're outside. Especially for younger and older patients. Younger patients, because their optical media is so clear that they get more blue light back to their retina. And then older patients, because as we age, the retina does not deal with the oxidative effects of blue light as effectively. And that's why in that study that I mentioned, it's when you get older, your eye actually protects itself against blue light. It does it 2 ways. Your crystalline lens keeps getting yellower, which reduces greatly the amount of blue light making it to the retina. And then you've got the retinal pigment, which also is designed to filter almost exactly 435 nanometer light. That's when you take lutein and zeaxanthin, you're building up a yellow filter that when you look at what it filters right around 435, which is the kind of light that can damage your retina.
Yeah, great. So we talked a good bit about science, studies, sources of blue light, harmful blue light, and to a degree who can benefit. I mean, it almost sounds like really everybody can benefit, even those patients who might be older who say, well, I don't even, I don't use digital devices. Yeah, but you might be out in the sun, you might have had cataract surgery. So let's talk a little bit about solutions. There's a lot of blue light filtering products out there. We've even seen them on our, I think our iPhones have the night mode. I believe Samsung has the same thing, more or less. What are some of Essilor's blue light filtering lenses that you obviously are most familiar with?
Mhm.
We've heard about transitions, of course, different anti-glare coatings, some new products that are out. Why don't you take a moment just to talk about some of those?
Sure. So they kind of fall into three categories. And of course, all manufacturers have products in all three categories, but I'm most familiar, like you said, with Essilor's. The first category is the clear lens. So it looks clear, but it's blocking blue light. And in our universe, we have what's called the Essential Blue series. So you can order any Verilux lens with Essential Blue series, which means it'll look clear like any other lens, but it's in reality blocking at least 20% of harmful blue light. And that's great. You can also iZen Plus, which is a single vision, enhanced single vision lens solution. All lenses come automatically with Essential Blue series for those lenses because they're being used on the computer and other things. So that's a clear solution. The thing I want to emphasize is clear solutions are great because they'll reduce your exposure to your electronic devices, which may or may not put off enough blue light to damage your eyes long term. We don't know. But if you go outside with a clear solution, blocking 20% of the sun's harmful blue light, it's, I guess, better than nothing, but it's not adequate. So when you go outside, you can also get, as we were talking about, Xperia UV. That's our polarized sunglass line. An Xperia lens, any polarized sunglass lens, basically is going to reduce harmful blue light by about 85 to 90% or even higher. And so, hey, you're covered. Your eye's just not getting much harmful blue light if you're protecting that much. And to be honest, polarized sunglasses are way underpenetrated in the United States, and the United States actually leads. No country sells more polarization than the United States, but we're still only 1 out of 15 clear prescription lens wearers has polarized sunglasses. The only issue with polarized sunglasses is I own 5 pairs myself. I don't know about you, but I'm imagining you own some prescription polarized sunglasses.
I do.
And I'm suspecting you also find yourself like me. You're walking to your car in Dallas and it's brilliantly sunny, but you don't have your sunglasses on because they're either in your car or they're sitting at your desk. And so, the problem with sunglasses is even if you own them, you may not remember to wear them. And so for someone like my mom, who just had 2 cataract surgeries last year, and it turns out that her ophthalmologist uses a clear IOL. So she is wearing Transitions, and specifically Transitions Extra Active, because Transitions Extra Active is probably the single best way to protect a patient's eyes against harmful blue light. When you're indoors, it filters at least 30% of the harmful blue light just in its regular state. When you go outside, it goes up to over 90%. And so even if you forget to protect yourself from blue light, Transitions remembers, it gets dark automatically, and hopefully mom's going to be able to see my grandkid, her great-grandkid, for decades to come.
Yeah, I think that's such an important thing just to talk about, maybe for those who have just joined us. But a good question that we should probably be, asking our cataract surgeons that we co-manage with, or even just talking to our patients who have had cataract surgery, is what kind of IOL is in there, right? So I think that's a really important point and something that we can think about in our post-ops. So you mentioned Essential Blue, and that's relatively new. And what makes that particular lens so unique? Is it the clear filter? Is it?
Well, we sprinkle a little bit of magic love dust into every lens. That's what it makes it. What makes it unique is people ask, why only 20%? Well, the reason for the 20% is because what our research has shown is that patients don't like to wear lenses that aren't clear. So if you've got to wear a yellow lens to protect yourself against blue light, they tend to balk at that. Even Crizal Proventia, which works really well, it reduces by 20% as well, but it works on reflection. And so a Crizal Proventia lens in a highly lit environment is going to look somewhat purple. And people like clear lenses. And so the reason that Essential Blue is unique is it blocks at least 20%, but it looks like an ordinary everyday lens, which means people will wear them, and it can't protect your eyes unless you wear them. So that's the point behind Essential Blue series. The other thing is you don't want to block beneficial blue light during the day. So I see that some people do have yellow lenses. I've got relatives that have yellow lenses, and I'm like, yeah, it's great. They will protect your eyes against blue light, but when you should wear them is after the sun goes down. Because if you're wearing them in an office environment all day and you're restricting all that 400 nanometer blue turquoise light, the body works on the difference in signals. So you need to have a high signal of blue turquoise during the day, and then at night it needs to drop to nearly zero. And that's what tells your body, hey, pump out some melatonin and help me get to sleep. So.
Got it. So let's just take a second and talk a little bit of marketing. So one thing that we're all trying to do in our practices is prescribe with confidence, capture second pair sales, etc. Do you have any marketing tips for both optometrists, opticians that might want to bring blue light into their practices and start prescribing these lenses to their patients? Is there a certain script, so to speak, or a message to convey to patients when talking about these new options or these options that are out there that focus on health or some other tangible benefits that they can relate with? Do you have any suggestions?
Absolutely. Actually, the first suggestion I would have is have the conversation. Because one thing I think that most optometrists that are in practice realize is your patients don't bring stuff up. Sometimes, hey, is your vision changed? No, not really. Oh, yeah, you're seeing 20/80. That's great. Drove yourself here. So a third of your patients already know this is a potential issue, and so they're waiting for you to bring it up. So if you don't, they're like, okay, either the doctor doesn't know about it or it's not important, or I don't know, I'm confused. I don't feel like I got everything covered. When you do mention it, I like to stay on safe ground myself. So what I would start with is, look, the sun definitely puts off a type of blue light that can damage your eyes over time. And do whatever reading you need to do to make yourself aware of that fact. Another good one, by the way, is by Crookshanks, who went back over the Beaver Dam study and found that definitely blue light's related to AMD. But once you come to that conclusion, the sun puts out enough blue light that it can damage your eyes long term. You need to protect yourself from that, just like you do with UV, which means just getting UV coating is not enough. We want to make sure you're wearing something that's dark when you go outside, whether they be sunglasses or photochromic. Either way, you need to protect your eyes outside. And then if you want to talk about the electronic devices, you bring that in as a secondary to say, now your electronic devices put out the same type as blue light as the sun, just at way, way lower levels. And honestly, we don't know yet whether it's enough exposure to really damage your eyes or not, but we do know that harmful blue light doesn't do any good at all. So if we can reduce it by 20% with a lens that looks like any normal other lens, that's not a bad idea. If you can amend that, shorten it, but around those general lines, it seems to work really well and it resonates with consumers. So,
yeah, that makes sense. And even for children, they spend a lot of time outdoors. They're the most susceptible to UV. So I guess that would be a good opportunity too, just to talk about UV and blue light together, which parents can definitely relate to and understand. So this might be completely anecdotal, but I've heard from some colleagues, maybe you could just shed some light, fact, fiction, or maybe a little bit of both. But are there any benefits of blue filtering lenses in regards to driving at night? Because I hear it every day. Patients are desperately looking for solutions for driving at night. So, is that fact, fiction? Is that just, who knows?
Yep. So I used to manage a practice in Florida, and the rumor is that old people live in Florida. But what I found was old people do not live in Florida. Old people's parents live in Florida. And so one of the things that we would hear constantly is that the dazzling effects of headlights at night, what can I do to help me see better at night? Yellow lenses are not the answer for that, because the type of patient that usually has problems with adapting to light to dark, dark adaptation, they're already getting little enough light to their retina. Putting a 20% yellow filter in there is going to help when the headlight's there, but when the headlight's not there, it's going to cause a problem. If you are going to give, the Air Force years ago did expensive studies with our money to say, do different colors actually help you see contrast better? And their conclusion after spending tens of millions of dollars was wearing a yellow lens does not in fact increase your perception of contrast. However, that said, they said the pilots feel like it gives them an advantage. And so for the psychological effect alone, eventually they said, yeah, you can have yellow lenses. If you have an older patient, especially that says, hey, I just really need some help with oncoming headlights, a kind of compromise solution is to give them a lens that's a gradient. And so what happens is when the headlight's coming, tilt your head down and look up through the top that has some tint to it. And then whenever the headlight's gone past, then look through the normal part that is clear. That seems to be the best solution for that. But there's never been any, if a yellow lens is actually improving your contrast perception, it's because you have a cataract that's gotten far enough progressed that the blue light's scattering so much that probably you shouldn't be driving in the first place. So.
Yeah, that's a great tip, Pete. Great tip, because I'm telling you, that is something that I am sure everybody hears on a daily basis. So we've got a couple questions that have just kind of come in here, and this is looks like this viewer here joined us a bit later into the show, but so the question is, do Essilor's blue light filtering products block the harmful wavelengths that you mentioned, 415 to 455, or what wavelengths are they blocking, I suppose is the question.
Okay, so we have a couple of different ways that we put the blue filtering into the lens, depending on which individual product you have. The way we measure it is we take 415 to 455 and we consider it to be a column of light. And so when we say that our product reduces exposure to that light by 20%, it means if you take the entire range of light from 415 to 455, it reduces that total amount of light by 20%. It does not mean that it evenly blocks 20% from 415 to 455. In fact, there'll be a spike and a peak at one or the other, if that makes any sense. And so some products you'll see, and just generally speaking of all products in the market, a lot of products will block the lower end of that 415 spectrum very well, but then as you get to 455, it blocks almost none. Another of our products has a spike where it's like at 445, it blocks a good bit. And so, but when you take the total of that entire range, it's 20%. If that helps.
Got it. Yeah. Another question here that came in is, so I'll just read this to you, Pete. I understand that Essilor has blue light filtering lenses, Prevencia coatings, and transitions, all which block a portion of blue light from reaching the eye. Do these create additive effects if you combine the products? And so let's just start there. Is there an additive effect?
Yes, and yes, there is. However, it's not a 1 + 1 = 2. So you have to understand that anytime you have an AR product that's filtering blue light, like a Crizal Preventure or Hoya Recharge lens, you're going to see that purple reflection because the way that product works is through reflection. So the reason you see the purple reflection is that's the harmful blue light being reflected away from the eye. The way that a essential blue series lens works is through absorption. And so you don't have to become the color that you're absorbing. In fact, you usually become the opposite color. So an essential blue series lens will always block at least 20% of harmful blue light. A Crizal Proventia lens will always block at least 20% of harmful blue light. If you put the two together, you get 30%. So it's not the 40% you might expect, but it is somewhat additive. So yes, it would be 30% if you took a clear essential blue series lens and you put Crizal Proventia over top of it.
Got it. And this is just continuing here, which of the two products would you say would have the greatest synergistic effect?
Right. So if you have, let's say you've got a patient that you really want to protect from blue light, like you can already see drusen, or you know they have macular degeneration, or whatever reason. The best product, single product, would be Transitions Extra Active. And if you put Crizal Proventia on top of that, that lens is going to block around 40 to 45% of harmful blue light, even indoors. And when you go outdoors, it's going to be over 95% effective. So.
Got it. And this just the final part of this question, and it sounds like you might have even mentioned it earlier, is that if you want to prescribe blue light protection for your patient, but financially there are some concerns for the patient, which product would offer them the best protection for their money?
Okay, so it depends. If they're one of the 70% of people that have managed vision care, let's say they have ESP, you could give them an Eyezen Plus lens that will be a very minimal copay for them, and it will automatically include the blue light protection. If they don't have managed care, one of the reasons we came out with Essential Blue, because we were doing what was called Smart Blue Filter, but it was only available on premium products. So now you can order a regular standard single vision lens and add Essential Blue protection to it. And it's at a fairly minimal cost to you. So, and you can make it a minimal cost to the patient as well. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just my question to you, Pete, what is your lens of choice? What do you got? What are you wearing over there?
Well, right now, and I'm not wearing them right now because it would drive you crazy, but the new Transitions just came out with a product called Style Mirrors, and it's Transitions Extra Active with a mirror coat over top. And it's kind of almost annoying to wear indoors, because even though when the lens is clear, you don't see the mirror so much, you see it enough that every light overhead eventually gets reflected in your eye. But when you go outside, it's magical, because suddenly you have mirror sunglasses, and then you go inside and they go from being mirrored to being almost clear. I've checked in for flights before, and I've been at the desk long enough to where they're like, weren't they just like sunglasses? And I'm like, yeah, they're, and they're like, that's pretty cool. So that's my choice today.
Gotcha. Is what's next to come? Is there anything next in the in the world of Essilor? Anything coming up?
Outside of, we've renewed the Ultimate Lens package. So just to be a little markety for a second, that is something that's relatively new. We did it last year and this year, and what it's really designed for is to help you get people interested in transitions. I mean, we tell them, when you buy Transitions with Eyezen Plus, we'll give you a second pair for free. So what we found is that that's been the most effective tool in increasing transition sales in years. And the cool thing for practitioners is we found that this being the second year, a lot of the people that bought Transitions for the first time last year, they're buying it again because now they like it. When it comes to blue protection, there's not a lot further we can go with a clear lens. If you block more than 20% of that range from 415 to 455, your ability to keep with a clear lens is compromised. So you go above 20%, you've got a yellowish lens. So.
Got it. Well, Pete, thanks for joining us today. It doesn't look like there are any additional questions, but for anyone who is watching this after the fact, if you do have questions on blue light or lenses or really anything, you can always reach out to me at antonio@covalentcareers.com, and I can put you in touch with Pete. Or if they want to reach you directly, Pete, is there a good way to do that?
Pretty easy. Just P Hanlin at Essilor.com. That's my email, and you can find me there almost all the time.
All right, and I'll make sure I put that in the notes so people can have access to that. But thanks again, appreciate it, and hopefully it's not too hot down there in Texas, and hope you're having a good summer.
All right, you as well. Always a pleasure.
Take care, Pete. Thanks again.